Alright guys, so here's the deal. Today I put out a poll on Twitter. I said, what would you like to see for a video? I gave you a bunch of options. The most votes was for a Red Dead 2 video. A teaser trailer was released today. The game is set to launch in fall 2017 according to them. And this video is going to be covering the trailer and then giving you all my theories about what's going on and what this game is going to be. Now I don't do this kind of stuff often, but I think it's okay because BF1 is dropping for me tonight and I'm going to be pumping out content for Battlefield 1 like there's no fucking tomorrow. We have our single player walkthrough coming through. We have multiplayer content, and then there's all kinds of other shit that I'm going to come up with. But basically today I'm going to roll the intro, we're going to watch this trailer together, and then I'm going to go through scene by scene telling you what is going on, what I think is happening there, and why I think that is. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. This isn't exactly normal for me, but it's fun for me. I love doing this kind of shit, so if you want to see more of it, let me know.
Yeah. Groovy.
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
Alright you guys, so this video is not actually going to have a face cam for this bit because I want you to be able to experience the trailer in the best way possible and you can see all these scenes the way they should be seen. Now this first bit right here, we see our probably the protagonist coming over the hill. I believe that's a sunrise or a sunset. Honest to God, I cannot tell, but we have a really beautiful cinematic scene and you can already tell this game is going to be incredibly gorgeous. Just imagine how Red Dead looked way back on the 360 and shit. Look how GTA looked when it came out and then imagine what this is going to be. It's going to be insane. Now this next bit here, we see something that really gives a clue to what we're looking at here. If you think about it, this looks a lot like somewhere in the more northwestern part of the US. We have mountains with snow. You see the pine trees. Those aren't exactly found in the Midwest. That's not super common. You kind of need mountains, need a wintry area. And we see elk here. That's another thing you don't exactly see everywhere. So this does tell us a lot about the setting, or at least one of the settings of where the game might be. I have no doubt that there's going to be different regions in the map with different climates, and as we go through the trailer you do see different types of regions. So I'm not going to say this is where the game is, but this is definitely included. Now just like I said, there's going to be multiple settings. Right here we see a more plain lands type hill setting. As you see in the background, you see another hill, which indicates there's different little hills. But right here we have a plains kind of ranch looking area. You have a nice open space. You have some trees, sun coming up. So clearly this isn't the super wintry area we saw before. You don't see snowy mountains. You don't see the pine trees. These are different trees here, as you can tell. And I'm guessing this is also one of the different settings we'll be seeing in Red Dead 2. Now boom, right here as we look, we're back in this, what feels like a northwestern setting, and I keep saying that because that's the only feeling I get from this. If you go to like Colorado or like Northern California, this is what it's going to look like. We have a little animal scurrying around. It's really dense, lush, temperate looking forest, and it's really just a gorgeous scene. Like this game is going to look incredible, you guys. Now right here we are in a valley. We have these high mountains. You can see snow on the mountain to the left. We see more pine trees again. We also see some kind of marshlands down below. We also see what's probably an egret flying around, so that definitely tells you this is going to be a marshy kind of swamp area. However, we're still seeing these mountains and these pine trees, and that really tells me that this is going to be in a northern area of the US. Rockstar's showing this scene for a reason, and they continue to push it because there is definitely significance there. Now this right here is easily my favorite scene of the entire trailer because it's just so ridiculously gorgeous. We have this dense forest at night, we have these people setting up camp on a little outlook over the river, and then above them you see the Milky Way. Now if they actually put this in the game and you can see stars like that, it will be insane. I cannot imagine having that in a game. That's something we don't see very often these days because of light pollution, and having that in this game with the new next-gen graphics and this whole world they're making, it would be absolutely insane. Now this scene is what really tells us a bit more about the game. See, we have the train and we have the buffalo. Now not everyone might think that's significant, but if you think back to Red Dead, there was a mission where you could actually kill off all the buffalo. Now what that means is there couldn't be any buffalo later in the timeline. So what this tells us is this could actually be a prequel. But besides that, you see electric lines in the background, so that tells us this is around the same time period as Red Dead 1, but could have actually occurred earlier because electricity was around then. And we'll cover that later in the trailer because there's another hint. But other than that, in this scene you also see snowy mountains once again in the background, telling us how important this scene is going to be. Now this scene right here is another really important one. Not only in the background we see pine trees and a snowy mountain again, which tells us this is a little mountain town, but this also tells us the potential location of this scene. You see the sign says Worst General Store, and if you do a little bit of research, you can find out that the first general stores in the US started popping up around early Fort Worth in Texas. So this could actually be a location where the story is taking place in Texas, which oddly enough contradicts this whole idea of the Northwest, but as I said, there could be multiple settings, and that ties into the overall theory. Plus, if you look a little bit closer, you can see pumpkins being sold, which tells us about what time of year this is, and it's probably fall or late fall, early winter, because we still have that snow, you can see water on the ground, and that tells us a lot about what's going on here.
Listen to me.
Now this is the next scene where we learn a lot about what's going on. If you look in the background, you see streetlights. Now this could be something really indicative of the time period because the first electric streetlights which we see here were tested in about 1880. And as you guys know, the events of Red Dead 1 didn't take place until 1911.
When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back.
Now, in this scene, obviously, we just have a lone ranger or cowboy, ideally our protagonist, but we don't know for sure, coming up to a burning town and then standing in the flame. Meanwhile, we hear the commentator saying, when the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. Now, I can't say much about this because obviously it's an incredibly vague part of the trailer, but I believe it ties into what I'm going to talk about as the overall theory here in a second.
This is over.
Okay, so here is my overall theory about what this game is going to be. I'm going to let the trailer run in the background as I talk about this so you guys can kind of get a feel for what I'm saying. Now, obviously, this game has a slightly different setting than the first one. We see a lot of snowy mountains, kind of northern looking areas, mountain towns, but we also see stuff that looks more similar to Red Dead, which points to the idea that there's going to be multiple scenes. Now, what my idea is since we saw those lights and the buffalo indicating towards a prequel, I'm going to say that this is ideally the events that led up to who John Marston was in the first game. When you start the game, you know he is a former outlaw, and I'm thinking this is him during his outlaw days. We go through the story of him doing what he did as an outlaw, you know, causing trouble, going across the country to these different places, and then eventually retiring and giving up his life as an outlaw. Now, the reason I say this is because we have all the hints that point towards the prequel, but we also see different areas which would indicate, you know, we kind of follow him around on a journey, and then eventually he has to decide or is forced into retiring as an outlaw, which ties in with what the commentator's been saying this entire time. You see, when the commentator says, when the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back, and then it says this is over, that would make a ton of sense in reference to John Marston retiring from the outlaw life, running from it, and changing his life. For whatever reason it is, we realize that the setting changes to where it is in the first game, which would make a ton of sense. If he's trying to escape the life that he had and become someone different, he obviously would leave where he was, go somewhere else and start new, and I'm thinking that's what this is. And since Red Dead Redemption 1 started off with the fully developed character of John Marston, I think a game covering his life before the events of the first game and giving us the background to his story would make a lot of sense from Rockstar's perspective, and it would definitely get a lot of people interested. So hopefully you guys liked my little theory video covering this trailer. I know it's kind of unorthodox, it's something I really don't do on my channel often, but I enjoy doing these kinds of things where we kind of step away from the humor and the fun shit and we just kind of do something more serious and interesting, and this was definitely a blast for me. So if you want to see more of this stuff, let me know. Be sure to follow my Twitter so you see these polls when I put stuff out talking about what people want to see. It really gives me a lot of insight as to what you guys want to watch here on the channel. But yeah, definitely let me know what you thought. If you enjoyed, be sure to finger bang the motherfucking like button. If you didn't, let me know why. I'll be sure to try and do better in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.